So good.
Hello, my name is So Good, and welcome back to another episode of me talking about the best things ever created. Today, in honor of the recent release of Avengers Endgame, I'm kicking off a short series I call So Good MCU, where I'll be covering the best and most dynamic characters all around the MCU. For the inaugural video, I could think of no one more suited to starting this series off than the man, the myth, the legend, Tony Stark. Tony Stark, or Iron Man, became an icon of the superhero era with his very first appearance in the 2008 movie of the same name. Since the Iron Avenger first appeared, Robert Downey Jr., the man behind the role, has only grown further and further into the character of Tony Stark, gifting us with performances so spectacular that even the late, great, and legendary Stan Lee once stated that he was born to be Iron Man. It only makes sense that films featuring the beloved armored hero average millions of extra dollars in profits, and even compared to other Marvel heroes like Thor and Captain America, Tony Stark still holds a special resonance with audiences, which, yes, begins with his powerful charisma, but flows much deeper than just Downey's cocky smile. So why exactly is it that Iron Man is such a popular hero? Why do people consider him to be the leader of a team filled with leaders? In other words, what makes the hero known as Iron Man so good? To answer this question, we have to begin with the man who made him arguably the world's favorite Avenger, Robert Downey Jr. During the dawning of the superhero film era, the genre of superhero movies was more or less new, with the exception of some pretty, well, let's call them dated movies. Droves of attempts were made to capture the magic of some of the comic world's most beloved heroes, and unfortunately, most of them fell short, with dismal critical reviews, only passing resemblance to the source material, and worst of all, boring heroes who lacked the dynamics needed to bring life and believability to such fantastic characters. In late 2007, just when the genre seemed like it would die off, a fresh breath of life flowed into the industry through some of the most iconic performances in modern cinematic history. The Dark Knight saw Christian Bale embody Batman and become the grim, dark anti-hero he was always meant to be. Heath Ledger's gripping interpretation of the Joker created a lasting and iconic example of purely thrilling insanity in a villain. Quite frankly, creating a performance so amazing, it's hard to believe anyone will ever be able to match it. That same year, another legacy was born, and this one belonged solely to Marvel. Debuting on May 2nd in 2008, this film would show the world why it should care about the Iron Avenger. But let's be honest, this movie wasn't a hit because the plot of Iron Man was beyond amazing. It wasn't because of the villain either, who was neither tremendously compelling nor even novel. I mean, do most of you even remember the name of the villain Iron Man dealt with in his first movie? It was Obadiah Stane, more commonly referred to as Warmonger. He wasn't a terrible villain. I mean, I love me some Jeff Bridges. And his performance in the role wasn't what made the villain forgettable. The truth is, we all know Iron Man is only as popular as he is today because Robert Downey Jr. didn't just deliver when he took up the role of the cocky and brilliant super scientist. He embodied it. Robert Downey Jr. managed to bring an undeniable and unique charisma to a hero whose main defining character trait is a quick wit and silver tongue.
You ever lose an hour's sleep your whole life?
I'm prepared to lose a few with you.
His illustration of arrogance drafted over a hero who considers himself God's gift to Earth is nothing short of jaw-dropping. But it goes beyond just the surface tropes of his character. See, Robert filled all aspects of his role, making him just as convincing when he's telling politicians to go F themselves.
I try to play ball with these ass clowns. Fuck you, Mr. Stark.
As he is when he's suffering the crippling effects of PTSD.
Check the heart, check the, is it the brain?
No sign of cardiac anomaly or unusual brain activity.
My diagnosis is that you've experienced a severe anxiety attack.
This actor plays all of Iron Man, from the cocky brilliance of a billionaire playboy philanthropist to the depressed and hopeless hero who had become a victim to his own failures. It may also be said that Robert Downey Jr. put a lot of his own struggle into this rendition of Tony Stark. You see, he himself has battled and conquered many of the demons Tony Stark faced in his own character arcs. But that could be the subject of an entirely different video. Iron Man is arguably the most American hero in all of the MCU. Now, I know, how could Iron Man be more American than a hero whose name is literally Captain America? I mean, Captain America represents all the best that the US has to offer. He's basically a representation of the American dream. A scrawny, weak, and unremarkable everyman whose drive and determination to serve his country was so great that he simply refuses to stop in his pursuit of service. When he is finally rewarded with remarkable superpowers, recognition, fame, and an easy job, what does he do with it? He throws it all away, demanding to serve on the front lines and ultimately giving his life for the greater good. Yeah, Captain America is certainly American, but he represents the ideals of America. He's the perfect representation of what an American could and should be, a selfless leader who works hard and reaches great heights while serving the innocent. And while this is great and probably what the Founding Fathers would have been proudest about, he isn't exactly representative of the reality of what America and the United States is truly about. Tony Stark was born with his superpowers, a natural genius born into one of the largest fortunes in the world. He didn't care about his role in the world, save for making tank loads full of money and blowing it just as fast. It is only when he is forced into internment by terrorists who have acquired his weapons on the black market that he discovers the responsibility inherent in the powers he has. Only after he realizes the destruction his legacy was founded on does he decide to accept his role as a defender and an avenger, and finally renounce his role as a warmonger. Tony Stark embodies a realistic look at an American superhero, with all his glaring flaws and foils, and all his endearing arrogance and stalwart leadership. If I had to boil it down into one sentence, I'd probably say that Captain America is the idealistic American, carrying only a shield because most Americans like to think of us as defenders of democracy and justice, who only defend themselves or the innocent when evil attacks. Tony Stark is the stark American reality, a billionaire at the center of a booming military-industrial complex responsible for pawning off weapons to the highest bidder. So we've talked about Robert Downey Jr., the man behind the mask, and we've talked about the hidden symbolism of the character he plays. But there's another layer that must be added to truly get a grasp of why this character is so gripping. To put it as simply as it can come to me, Tony Stark, Iron Man, is a living, breathing character. So what exactly does this mean? It means that Tony Stark is a character who is consistent, yet flexible. By this, I mean to say that Tony Stark is still Tony Stark, whether he's happy, mad, or depressed. But this tendency for consistency can't be all that makes this character so engaging. No, one of the brightest aspects of Iron Man is that he seems to remember the things he's been through. His past adventures have moved him in many ways. Not only is he proud and arrogant from his past victories, but he's also crushed and humbled from the moments that reveal him to be not an impenetrable god of iron, but just a man in a suit. He is a character who experiences an incredible amount of development in every movie he's in, even in the movies in which he isn't the lead or central character. Oftentimes, we see our heroes getting better, stronger, faster, smarter, and more benevolent. And for the most part, Iron Man follows this trend, becoming a more admirable hero every time we see him. But he also shows a darker side that wasn't there at the beginning of the story. We see Tony develop intense stress that leads him down the road to severe PTSD. We've seen Tony try and fail so many times to have the one thing he wants most in this world. The thing he seeks above almost everything else, save for his responsibility to his fellow man. We've seen Tony grapple with rage and the desire to make amends for what he perceives to be past mistakes. We've seen him jeopardize his relationships, endanger lives, and allow his regret to control him. All things that show him not to be the perfect hero so many consider him to be. These flaws reveal him to be not a man made of iron, but a man in a suit.
Gods, aliens, other dimensions, I'm just a man in a can.
A man who is just trying to do what he sees as his best. A man who wants to make things right and take responsibility for the power he has. Through this perspective, it's kind of easy to see why Tony Stark in the movies, comics, and shows is always naturally close to Spider-Man as a mentor. The two embody the same core value, that with great power comes great responsibility. But that's a topic for an entirely separate video. Thank you so much for watching, and I honestly mean that. I appreciate you guys tremendously and look forward to pumping out much more content in the future. With that being said, what do you guys think about Tony Stark? Is the Iron Avenger your favorite hero in the MCU, and what do you think of these character videos? Is there someone you want me to make a video on? Leave a comment down below, and while you're down there, it would be awesome of you to stamp the like button and subscribe. My name is So Good, and you are a So Gooder, and this is my last second reminder telling you to go out there and keep on loving good stuff.